Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Eagles Lead Leadership Success Workshop from the Learning Commons. Our topic this week is all about managing projects. Now that we are coming up on the end of the semester, you may be asked to complete a big project, either with a group or individually. In fact, you might be working on these projects now. Project management is an in-demand skill that people can apply to all sorts of scenarios, both in school, in their personal lives, and also in the workplace. I want to thank you for joining me today and for your interest in this topic. I hope that you find it useful and can apply some of the basics as you move forward in your education. Today, we will cover a few topics related to managing projects. First, we will answer the questions, what are projects and what is project management? We will then talk about how project management can be used in both school and in the workplace. Then we are going to cover project management basics. Before we begin, let's start with an introduction. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sam. I'm an academic success coach in the Learning Commons at Tallahassee Community College. My job is to help students in any way that I can in order for them to be successful in class. While I can help and support you in just about any academic area, I do specialize in study and test-taking strategies, time management and organization, note-taking, and academic motivation or goals. I'm also a student at Florida State University. I'm currently finishing up my last semester at Florida State as a master's student in a little program called Instructional Systems and Learning Technologies. The focus of my degree is all about how people, in particular students, learn and perform at their best. This semester, I'm hosting a number of success skills and leadership success workshops. This leadership workshop is number 5. Our 6th leadership workshop, Professionalism and Taking Initiative, will take place in 2 weeks, same time, same place. I've included my email address on this slide just in case you do not have it. Let's start off this workshop presentation with a poll. There are going to be 2 questions. The first question is, are you required to complete a project for a class this semester? The second question allows you to select all options that apply. The question is, when part of a group project, what role do you typically play? This question is going to tell me a little bit about your experience with and attitudes towards group projects. I'm going to launch this poll now and give everyone a moment to respond. Thank you for participating in this poll. Before we can dive into project management basics, it is important that we define what a project is. For the purposes of our workshop, we are defining project as temporary work that has a beginning and an end and produces a unique product or result. When undertaking the project, you are looking to create or discover something that has not been done exactly that way before. They often require us to juggle many different tasks and goals in order to reach the final product. Projects can be large or they can be small. They can be completed in groups and often are, or they can be completed individually. When working in groups, projects can become very complex. Now, instead of managing your own time and work, you also have to juggle the expectations of your teammates and trust that they too will manage their own time and work. This leads us into the concept of project management. Project management is defined by PMI.org as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. There are 5 stages of project management. They are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. As we discuss project management basics, we will briefly touch upon these stages. I chose project management as one of my leadership success workshop topics because I believe that it is a worthwhile, highly marketable, and in-demand skill that all students should be aware of. Project management has always been practiced informally, but in the last century it has emerged as its own distinct profession. Let's talk more about why project management is so important. Have you ever completed a group project and felt out of control or even a little bit disorganized? Understanding the basics of project management can lead to more group organization, communication, and understanding. When proper expectations are set and followed, the project will, hopefully, be a success. The most obvious use of project management skills in your classes is when you are required to complete a group project. Do not be afraid to take on a leadership role in your group. You might fear that if you take on a leadership role, that you will be saddled with more work. In fact, you will find that by ensuring that there is a group leader, that work is more clearly defined for each group member, resulting in less stress and less work. Project management skills can also be applied to individual projects or even assignments. The basics of project management can help you better manage your time and prioritize those urgent and important tasks. Most in the workplace, not just those with the job title of project manager, should understand the very basics of project management. Project management basics can help you clarify your goals and objectives at work and ensure that projects are completed on time, within budget, and are of the highest possible quality. However, if you are interested in working in a project management role, you should know that demand for skilled and experienced project managers is expected to grow at a faster rate than other occupations through 2027. Most project managers make somewhere between $93,000 and $140,000 per year. Project managers work within a number of fields, including finance, manufacturing, construction, information, publishing, insurance, management, professional services, education, utilities, oil and gas, businesses around the country. So regardless of your interests, there could be a project management role for you. There are a number of skills that all qualified project managers must have. These skills will serve you well in projects here in college and also in the workforce. These skills include being highly organized, detail-oriented, having the ability to see the bigger picture and break it down into its smaller parts, verbal communication skills, critical thinking, leadership skills, interpersonal skills, and problem solving. There are many more skills that project managers should have, including the ability to manage budgets and resources, negotiate contracts, and risk management. But for the purposes of this presentation, we are just going to focus on the basics that you can apply towards your work here at Tallahassee Community College. The first basic concept of project management that we are going to cover is the concept of the project management triangle. The elements of the project management triangle, and you've guessed it, there are 3 of them, are also known as constraints. The word constraint means a limitation or a restriction. In the next slides, we will talk about how the 3 factors of the project management triangle serve as constraints. The first factor of the triangle is scope. Scope is defined as all of the features and requirements of the project. For example, if I have a group project due in my psychology class that requires a 5-page research paper, a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation, and a group video, then all of these requirements would be considered part of the project's scope. This information would be outlined in the assignment description for your project. The second factor of the triangle is timeline. This is the amount of time that you and your group have to complete the project. In other words, this is the due date or the deadline for your project. This will be clearly stated in your course syllabus. The third and final factor of the triangle is resources. Resources encompasses all of the materials, equipment, and the cost of the project. With schoolwork, this is likely going to be minimal, which is a good thing when it comes to the triangle. Depending on the project itself, there may be minimal costs, such as a poster board. However, there are other resources such as time, energy, and effort that also come into play. Remember, these three factors of the triangle are called constraints, or limitations or restrictions. Let's talk about why that is. In a perfect world, there is a perfect balance between the scope of your project, the timeline for your project, and the resources available to you and your group to complete the project. In this perfect world, the balance allows you to complete all of the requirements of your project in enough time at the highest quality. In the case of a perfect balance, your triangle would be equal on all sides. The reality, however, is not so perfect. Oftentimes, there are competing demands or constraints, limitations in the scope, time, or resources that throw the triangle off balance. In fact, most projects will require a lot of high quality and complete work done very quickly for the least amount of resources possible. Can you see how this might make it difficult to balance? Let's take a deeper look into the challenges with constraints. These challenges are perfectly displayed in this triangle graphic. If the project needs to be done quickly and be high quality, that typically requires higher costs or more resources. If a project needs to be done quickly at low costs, this will typically lead to a product that is lower in quality. If a project needs to be high quality and low cost, then that project will usually take low priority and will not be completed quickly. As a student, there is not much that can be done for deadlines and the timeline of your project. You are given a specific timeline by your professor, and you're expected to stick with it. I hope that you are also anticipating that your projects will be high quality. That means that more resources will be needed to be put into the project. In this case, we are talking about your effort, your time, and your energy. In order for your project to be successful, there are 3 elements required. First, there needs to be a clearly defined and controlled scope. Your team should determine upfront what each and every task needed to complete the project is. You do not want to make it to the day before the project is due and remember that there is an additional element that has not yet been addressed by your team. Second, you should have a definite timeline for completion. As a team, agree upon your timeline. Sure, you have a due date from your professor, but perhaps your team decides to have each task completed 48 hours before the deadline so that each member can review and edit as needed. Finally, there needs to be a way for your group to measure progress. Have you ever been in a situation where you are working in a group and you reach out to discuss the project, yet you never hear anything back? Well, expectations need to be set with the group on how project will be measured. We will discuss a few methods for measuring this progress in just a moment. An important step for all projects is the creation of a work breakdown structure. A work breakdown structure is a breakdown of all of the project's smaller components and tasks. Remember when I said that an important skill for all project managers is the ability to see the bigger picture and break it down into its smaller parts? This is where that skill comes in handy. Creating a work breakdown structure is an important step of making sure that your team is informed of all of the concrete steps needed to accomplish the scopes or the requirements of the project. In fact, the project scope is officially defined by this type of document. Once your team has created a work breakdown structure, it is time for next steps, such as setting a timeline to complete each step of the work, assigning specific tasks to team members, and establishing expectations for communication. As a group, you may decide to start a group text or meet over Zoom once a week to discuss the project. Organization is one of the essential skills of managing a project. How you choose to organize the work and team, it's really up to you. There are a number of free tools online that can help you keep track of it all though. I highly recommend that as a team you work together using collaborative online tools. The first one that we are going to discuss is OneDrive. You're likely familiar with OneDrive and you may have used it for completing work in your classes. OneDrive has a number of collaborative tools for your team, including Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Create papers, spreadsheets, and presentations with your team in real time. As you make changes, your team members can view those immediately. You have access to OneDrive through your TCC email account. Once you've created your collaborative space, share it with your team using the Share button on the taskbar. Another great collaborative space for group projects and to host online discussions is through Google Drive. There's one template in particular, though, that is of special interest to group managers and those undertaking group projects, and that is the Google Sheets template for a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is a type of bar chart that illustrates a project's schedule. Gantt charts also show the dependency relationships between activities and current schedule status. Dependent tasks are tasks that depend upon one another. For example, if your project requires a research proposal, then this will likely need to be completed before writing your research paper. This chart lists the tasks to be performed and how long each task should take to complete. In addition, you can give tasks an owner, that is, the group member that is responsible for completing each task. The final question is, where do you go from here? Group and individual projects can be tough. It requires leadership and close management of time. If you are working on a project, whether it be for class or for your extracurriculars, there is support available to you. Feel free to email me at dzurgas@tcc.fl.edu. I want to thank you for joining me today for this presentation on managing projects. I hope that you have been able to pick up on a few of the project management basics and learn about all of the skills needed to be a competent project manager. If you have any questions, once again, feel free to email me at dzurgas@tcc.fl.edu or put a question in the chat box here.